Hello and welcome to this session on leash or lead reactivity. This term is loosely used for dogs who may bark or lunge on the lead. So I was going to tell you a little bit about how it comes up and then how it develops for an individual dog. And then what sort of strategies you might try to deal with it. I should say at the outset that all dogs are different and they all have different experiences. So in these little chats, I can only really talk about general patterns. So what causes lead reactivity? Essentially, dogs in the wild, they don't wear leads. So leads, they are a barrier. They keep your dog safe, but they can prevent your dog from showing natural behavior. They prevent the dogs from greeting other dogs if they're friendly, or even avoiding other dogs if they feel scared. They also prevent your dog from showing natural body language and communicating with other dogs if the leash reactivity relates to dog encounters. The prevention of natural behavior is especially true if you tend to keep the dog on a short lead, very short lead, and if you use a head collar, which will prevent them turning and looking, as well as showing any natural body language, which can be really stressful for some dogs. So, number one, leads prevent natural behavior. Number two, tight leads can panic or hurt the dog. So if you have got a lead attached to a collar or a head collar or a choke chain, which hopefully none of you are using, if you imagine that you've just been prevented from doing something that felt completely natural to you, like saying hi to someone, and you then apply pressure, and if you apply it just here, as you're talking, it induces a feeling of panic. So you've prevented them showing any natural behavior, and then if you add lead pressure, at the very least, it's like you're trying to do something and someone's got hold of your jumper and they're pulling you away. They keep poking at you. So tight leads can add to irritation, arousal levels, as well as anxiety. And in terms of a human example, walking in shoes that don't fit. I've done some long days in ill-fitting shoes, or, and this may just be me, if you got a haircut and you got wispy bits that keep going in your face and it's a windy day, you just spend the whole day feeling a little bit antsy, which I'm not saying ill-fitting shoes or a haircut that's a bit irritating would cause you to be reactive, but it might put you a little bit more on edge. So leads prevent our dogs showing natural behavior and add to their arousal, irritation, or anxiety levels. And for the dog, what that means is, well, it means nothing if there's nothing overwhelming in the environment. If they're actually just eating really big high-value treats, trotting along with you, there's no cars driving past too fast, there's no barking, lunging dogs on the other side of the road, or perhaps big lorries. Bin lorries can be a thing. So if there's none of that, then actually having a short lead and being walked on a collar or a head collar may not be a massive issue. So for leash reactivity to build, you generally have something in the environment that's inducing some fear, anxiety, impulsivity, some sort of stress to them. So the sequence will be, and I'm thinking about Lawrence the Labrador here, they see another dog and they want to meet the other dog because they're super friendly. To be fair to him, he does now realise that not every dog he meets wants to say hi to him. So if we think back a couple of years, he would see a dog automatically be like, oh my God, I love you, I want to see you, and pull on the lead. That straight away made him feel really quite frustrated, frustrated with me, frustrated with the lead, and I guess angry and disempowered. So some dogs in that situation might bite the lead because they're annoyed. Some might start yelling, often just yelling and shouting because they're frustrated and feeling disempowered. And I see this especially with small dogs. Small dogs, I think they get pulled and pushed around by their owners quite naturally, more than if you've got a great big bull mastiff or an Akita, where you really can't, because they are in fact bigger and stronger than you. So for a friendly dog, they want to go and meet the other dog. They're pulling on the lead, getting cross and frustrated. You're adding to that the feeling of being slightly strangled or in pain. And over time, what happens is, this takes time to build, and this is where all dogs are different. But over time, what can happen is when the lead goes tight, the dog assumes they might need to panic or get frustrated. It triggers the emotion directly. And I have seen this firsthand in Lawrence the lab. And interestingly, I said all dogs are different. He has never been lead reactive because, you know, I know all of the tricks. So I taught him to leave it. And I really drilled it, really well conditioned, leave it. So if there was another dog, I'd say leave it. Now, over time, what leave it meant is, this is the moment you need to start getting frustrated and angry because you're about to not be allowed to see another dog. So it's the same process, but, you know, without the lead being involved. It can happen in other ways too. The dog wants to run away from a scary thing. And for you as the owner, especially with larger dogs, but I think equally in some ways for smaller dogs, if they start to pull and lunge away, you brace and you want to pull them in the other direction. And I have seen it actually a number of times where the dog pulls and lunges away, as in to make space from the thing that scares them, and the owner wants to tighten the lead. Now, I get it, you tighten the lead because what you want is for the dog to feel your support and your proximity, hear commands, see treats. But actually, they were trying to run away because they were really scared, and you just stopped them from doing that. And there can be lots of other reasons dogs put leads under tension. I have Annie, the puppy, at the moment. It's a leaf, it's Car, whatever it is, she wants to go and chase it. And I'm working really hard not to use the lead to generate frustration. And actually, a good example on my morning walk this morning, I was being good and walking her separately because I'm trying to get at least one, if not two, training walks in with her a day. And we met my neighbour's dog, who she is not at all happy about. It's a really large breed, but fluffy, so she looks larger than she is. She's a black German Shepherd. And I had Annie on her long line. So what I do is I gather the long lead up, I do a bit of heel work, I go to a park area, let her have a bit of run on the long line, training her not to hit the end of the long line, and then walking her back when I've shortened the lead. When I got into the road, into my cul-de-sac, she saw my neighbour who was coming out for the walk. She started to freeze, tuck her tail under. And I quite like having a chat with my neighbour. I live alone, you know, we value a bit of, if you live alone, you value a discussion with anyone who will have a discussion with you. And the urge to put her too close to the other dog was there. I could feel it. But instead, what I did is I just let the lead go totally loose. I live in a cul-de-sac, I should say, so it's completely fine to do that. And actually, she went to the end of the long lead, but it didn't go tight away from the other dog. And then she sort of hung around there for a bit. She risked looking at the other dog, taking in information, and then made her way back towards me. And actually, she did sit slightly behind me, so I didn't hang around and have a long chat, but it was a good experience for her rather than a scary one, and there was no really full-on freeze or flight. It was all fairly manageable for her. So this little issue of preventing natural behavior, adding pain or panic, and the environmental triggers for a dog has an additional factor, which is, and I've just alluded to it there, it's your response. It's your response to your dog barking and lunging on the lead. And quite often it is to pull back, to tighten the lead and pull back, and even to do what is quite an old-fashioned thing now, but to check the lead. Dogs absolutely hate it, but if you give the dog a tug on the lead, they were about to yell and shout, and you just kind of give them a hard tug, it will push them over the edge. So what you can do if your dog is starting to show signs of lead reactivity, first of all, check your equipment. Check that you have got a really nicely fitted harness. So your harness, it should go down in a nice Y shape, so 2 panels joining up and another panel going under their belly. Some harnesses, the ones that are sold as being easier to put on often, they come with a wide strap that comes right across the front. And those harnesses, if you look at what happens when the dog pulls, the harness comes up to the same position as the collar. So you want a nice wide berth at the front here, so there's a distance between the collar and the harness, and the harness needs to fit. And if you're buying a harness, I think it's worth just knowing that not all harnesses fit all dogs nicely. Okay, there are some brands which are really good. I quite like a perfect fit harness, but often I find they work better on smaller dogs. However, I have got some larger dogs they fit nicely on as well. True Love can work quite nicely, and there are some good rough wear harnesses as well. The key is it has to actually fit your dog nicely. So if you can, get hold of 3, 4, 5, try them on, see which ones your dog is happy putting over their head or over their paws, and see which ones fit them the best. And if you can, I tend to recommend a training lead, which is, I like the halty ones. I think they're 2 meters long, and you can shorten them with a handle slightly to 1.5 meters, which would, for most pavements, allow your dog to have a natural walk. Clearly, if you're on a narrow street, you might need to wind the lead around your hand a couple of times to shorten it off and keep the lead safe. I would avoid, if you can, the extendable leads, because the dog can never learn when it's about to check them and they get a little jolt. So yeah, sort your walking equipment out. Avoid triggers. Give your dog a huge wide berth around triggers. And ideally, you are at such a distance away from the triggers and, not near a main road, etc., that you could do what I did with Annie this morning, which is if the dog starts to feel uncomfortable, you can let the lead go loose and let the dog show natural behavior. Finally, and if you've done training, you'll already have some skills here. You may want to up your skills and teach your dog to do another behavior instead. So when they see something which starts to tip them into fear, anxiety, or stress, or impulsivity, you can ask them to look at you, to touch your hand, to change direction. And if they're doing that, they can't actually be yelling and shouting at the end of the lead. Now, if your dog's truly having a fight, flight, freeze type reaction, those behaviors are unlikely to interrupt it, and all you can do is get the dog out of there. But it will allow you, if there is sufficient distance, to manage the dog at times where you can't get far enough away for them to be completely relaxed. So there's loads of other things that we could talk about here. I've gone wildly over time. If you're having problems with lead reactivity, and that is any barking, lunging at people or other dogs or vehicles limited to being on lead, then contact me and I will do my best to help you. And if you watch this on replay and you've got any questions, please post them in the comments and I will answer. Thanks, bye.